Here we go. This video is a monster of mixed emotions and spastic thoughts, so basically my love life, but more interesting to the common man. So, No Man's Sky Next just got announced for the Xbox X. I guess it was the Xbox X technically. And, well, people have acted and reacted. What do I mean by this? Well, safe to say, the haters and fanboys are going at it like how the game launched. Actually, I would argue worse in some cases. I have a lot to talk about in this video, and since I want this to be as concise as possible, or more accurately, a video that couldn't be mistaken for the worst word salad at a vegan bar, I'm going to split this video into two videos that are a total of 4 segments. There's going to be 2 segments in this one and 2 segments in the other one. The first segment, which is going to be in this video, is going to be a brief retrospective of the game now, and the second is going to be directly addressing the hate, and why I believe it to be a conspiracy by the Russian oligarchy. The third, and if anybody's watching at this point in either video, is going to be what we know about the update exactly, and what I would like to see in the update exactly. Click here or after the end of this video to see the other. I said after the end of this video, didn't I? Why the hell did I say? No Man's Sky had a rough launch, go figure. But you don't need me to point out the obvious, even though I kind of just did that. To put it short, the game was missing key features promised by the dev team, or more singularly, Sean Murray, the head developer for the team. There, I've summed up about 90% of the comments I've seen, and the other 10 ranging between suggestive mother jokes and suicide prevention lines. Everyone understandably was upset at the launch and voiced their frustrations in many different ways. Some, understandably, by selling the game back or leaving it for the time being, or leaving feedback and comments on other people's videos. Others decided to think things a bit too far, like sending death threats and harassing anybody who had the slightest positive thing to say about the game. But time passed, and people decided to get mad at the next rolling pebble, being very careful not to push any of the large stones in their way. Meanwhile, for the next year, those who stuck with the game would be rewarded with infrequent updates and an understandably reclusive dev team, too afraid to come out of their shell as to not stoke the flames of nerds again. Free updates soon followed, adding some of the missing features from launch, and eventually, after about a year, the game was in a semi-decent state. We'll get into the semi thing later. All you need to know for now is there was a lot you can still critique post-update. Why is this segment specifically bringing up hate then, since I just said there's more than enough to critique the game initially and past all the updates? Yes, I'm still restating the obvious, shush. Well, if you hadn't simply checked the comments section of this very video, other than No Man's Sky related videos, well, it's recently been a cesspool of more rampant yelling and hate than your last book club meeting about MonConf. This will be extremely funny when no one comments on this video and I have to eat crow with the last comment I made. But, joke's on you, I love chicken. Either way, what I've seen is people fresh from 2016 like they came through some fucking time portal directly to now, and they're still complaining about stuff that's either currently in the game or will most likely be added in this next update. I'm not here to tell you to love the game. Trust me, I know a lot of people that are my personal friends that don't like the game. In terms of gameplay currently, it's a more passive experience, promoting more of an explore and wait and watch type attitude as opposed to an actively going out and doing things attitude. Which some people will enjoy, some people won't. Congratulations, we all have different taste. But before I get called a fanboy, like I know I am going to be probably in the comment section here, there is a difference between critiquing something like Owlboy over here and blindly following a trend like cryptocurrency. I'm specifying the difference right now because it's very important. Most of the people I see in these hate comments specifically attack people that like the game or the game itself with outdated information or literally haven't used a brain cell to think about the game since launch. And let me get this out of the way right now because it's going to be brought up either way. Did Hello Games mislead the audience of the game regardless of the fact that people had some rather unrealistic expectations about the game? Yes, 1,000 times. If you're a fan of the game at all, stop acting like this isn't true. as there is evidence to prove otherwise. If you truly care about this game, and you need to accept that. Now that's out of the way. Meanwhile, everyone who's leaving hate comments, not critiquing, as again, there is a difference. The type of comments I'm talking about are comments like these. I don't want to single anybody out, but a group of people made a comment collectively like this, that they were upset that Sean Murray used buzzwords like excited and ready to show things, in quotations. But the words or the sentence he exactly used was he was excited to show people and ready to show people what they were working on this last year. I don't think that's quite weird of somebody to do. I don't actually understand how you would have want him to have phrased it. Would you have wanted him to just say update coming out, that's it? I mean, it's completely normal for a person to act excited for releasing something. Not saying that you have to get excited for it, but it's completely normal for that person to sound like that. It's just that a lot of the comments in question tend to fall apart and have about as much common sense as sticking your hand in boiling water to check the temperature. I just have a few things to say. Don't worry, they should be pretty brief, shouldn't take too long. Firstly, the game has changed much since launch, significantly altering how the game is played. The argument is no longer valid that there is nothing to do. The argument now is that stuff worth doing? And kind of like SAT scores, well, it kind of depends on what you expected. The second part of this memento right here is going to be a comparison to another mild controversy. And I stressed mild, and that's what annoyed me about it. Where was all this collective disdain when games like Destiny and The Division came out? You might say with your fingers poised on that keyboard ready to smash that enter button waiting to me to the toxic underworld or something. They're not even comparable gameplay-wise, which I completely agree. One is an FPS-based sim focused on exploration, while the other is a shared world FPS focused on loot. What I'm comparing is the marketing and the lies both had, and which I would argue worse in one case. Destiny 1 boasted about a robust story with meaningful content, trading, great characters, a variety of locations, classes, more than 3. What did we get? A par shooter with half the content promised missing, and past that, Bungie has never admitted fault for any of what's happened with Destiny 1 and its launch. But hey, everyone defended and kept going with that game even though they charged you for DLC and the fact that microtransactions existed in it, just to fix the broken mess at launch and past it. You have to forgive me if it's like someone shitting in your mouth and you quabbling it up like nothing's wrong. Destiny 2, admittedly a better presentation than Destiny 1, even I would agree with that, launched and did the same exact shit. And for a while, up until recently, the recurring thing with that one was people are just hating. They don't care about the game or any of us. Some might not have. But you had people in your own community calling BS from day one, and chose to ostracize most of them until recently when you found out you were being blatantly robbed of your money and patience. Gotta bring the woosah back for that small rant. That one was because I truly wanted to love Destiny. Not to detract from this video any more than it already was. But my point after all that was that Hello Games still gets hate and toxicity from most people. They fucked up on their launch. Wow. It was a really, really bad launch. But since then, it's been update after update for free. And most of the added content was community requested, not inferred and charged for like Bungie. If you can't see what I'm saying, I swear, if the shooting wasn't between half decent and shooting the broadside of a barn, then half the player base would drop more than a porn star with a wad of cash, and you can quote me on that one. However, as I know there are many fans and non-fans of the game, robust and actually decent opinions and critiques about this game, if you have any problems with the current build of the game and would like to voice them, there is nothing wrong with doing such, as most of the criticisms that are actual criticisms have been pretty well warranted and worded correctly, I'd say, and should be listened to by fans alike, which leads us to the retrospective kind of part of this. So, rolling that clock back in the very early parts of the following year of 2017, well, following year of 2016, but the year was 2017. Anyway, about 3 to 4 grueling months, I believe, No Man's Sky got its first content update, namely called the Foundation Update. It was supposed to set out to make the foundation of updates to come. Basically, what was added was base building, better economy systems, and new game modes, creative, polio, and normal mode. The modes everyone was currently playing was normal mode, and the two other modes were supposed to offset that and give a new spin on the game. The second update, released another few months after that, was the Pathfinder update. I'll elaborate more on them in a moment, but the important thing to ask right now is, were they good? Kinda. Most of the stuff in these updates either added just enough content to get to the next one, or showed that Hello Games wasn't exactly as conniving as they were incompetent. The base building added was cool in concept and had some very good groundwork, while never going far enough to be a truly worthwhile addition for me, since the base building was more restrictive than a church in the south and always had the original round room as a starting platform, which kind of made truly Dreamhouse building rather difficult. Plant resources was a good idea, but when that's all you can really do, it's not too expansive and not too fun after a while. Other than just making a lot of money, they were basically nah. They also had NPCs, but at this time they were blanker slates and dry ice in a freezers, so the modes they added were okay as staples, but couldn't really highlight much of anything, since, as I stated, the base building is restrictive, which made creative as redundant as Russian elections, and normal mode was the mode you were already playing with. Oh, and there was one other thing. Oh yeah, Cancer Incarnate, also known as survival mode. Everything uses more energy and more materials. Things are more hazardous, and you are more susceptible to random bull, which makes the wonderful feeling of getting gangbanged in an alley or a space for the unexplored all the more wonderful. Almost like For the King. Thanks, No Man's Sky, for reminding me of that game. Anyways, it was their other auxiliary objectives they added, like buying a freighter and finding new planets they added that would keep you busy. In the Pathfinder update, they added cars. I mean, it was good minus the really bad requirements on other planets. Was it meta altering? Kinda. It made things quicker, and ramping around was fun, and racing other people and some time trials was fun, as well as live was pretty fun. Other than that, no, not really. That's kind of the sad thing about the first two updates, is that they added stuff, but it was basically keeping the game on life support at a constant 1 rep per moment. So, however, on a more positive note, things were happening behind the scenes. During the first two update releases, and especially after the second update release, Hello Games spawned a very successful ARG, which is an alternate reality game for those that are un-internetified, for an unannounced big update coming to the game at an unannounced time. It's a giant rabbit hole of sleepless nights and coding nightmares, so I'm not gonna go through it too much. All I'll say about the ARG is that I do not believe it was shoehorned in as a lot of people are trying to say in the comments. Similarly to Destiny, ironically, lore for the game was present already at launch, and was actually pretty deep in suggesting it was a simulation, or a failing one at that, which is kind of a main spoiler for the next update that I'm about to speak about. But most of you present are here to either laugh at me to poke fun at this game, or already know the plot, so not going to really lose sleep over that one. Now, we get to the meat and potatoes. The Atlas Rises update that was launched a year later around the original release of the game in 2016, which added a 24 to 30 hour story and a whole bunch of content and revisions to the existing systems in the game. This update was a benchmark for a few reasons, notably that they were listening to their community and actively trying to make good on their promises and fix their bad reputation from a year prior. And I'm going to say this now and get this out of the way. As much good as this update did, and as much good as that was in this update, there was quite a few problems. One of the first ones was notably that the game stability was still comparable to the Tacoma Narrow Bridge, and that the end-game loop of the game consisted of mainly watching plants grow to be the most efficient. I guess that's not being fair, Since it was apparent to most, since again this is a mainly exploration game, you were supposed to be exploring, meanwhile all the plants grew at your home. For auxiliary objectives, there were side missions added that consisted of go here, scan this, go here, repair this, and go here, kill yourself. They arguably weren't the most mentally engaging missions ever existing in a game, but they were far from the worst. Being very basic, they served their purpose, and there was enough of them with sometimes added objectives that would keep you from getting too bored too fast. So as long as you had the patience to play and explore, you generally wouldn't find yourself trying to figure out what the height it was that would kill you in and out of game. They also added actual side quests for the cardboard that was the specialist that you hired for your base. Remember those wonderful pieces of dry ice? They are actually pretty engaging to those that can read the descriptions in their speaking logs. And without spoiling too much, each specialist has a somewhat fucked up past and a somewhat equally fucked up future that you, of course, have the wonderful pleasure of learning and experiencing, maybe as a pseudo way of the dev team reaching out to their community. This, in turn, met with a very symbolic and somewhat thought-provoking story about the Atlas and its shortcomings as a god. Here's where a lot of people tend to disagree and have differing opinions in and out of the community. I do not agree in the slightest that the story is bad. I agree that it is needlessly convoluted and told poorly, kind of like a Bible in a way, which is ironic since the story is littered with references and seems to run that thing up and down with it. Unfortunately, there's one major flaw with the story that I have to agree with, completely for people that do not like it. In any story that's based around the narrative between two characters, your character interacting with other characters especially, it's very important to make sure that that character shows a wide range of emotions. Did you hear me? Wide range of Let me see if this is right. Let's try that again. Okay, wide range of emotions. Take two. Okay, here's my problem. See, your character either makes ridiculously dumb decisions or shows about as much care as a person that is unironically screaming fake news at the sight of any opposing information. To put it bluntly, your character's situational awareness is similar to a frat boy in a retirement home. It's horrible. They make most of their comments that are just either completely off basis from what's happening around them when characters die or disappear, or they just make completely unrelated and irrelevant comments in general to just normal stuff. Or somehow one of the simplest things stated will be taken by your character as gospel by the gods, or the Atlas in this case. Again, it's very hit or miss when it comes to that. Reading most of this lore and narrative in between the lines and other characters talking to you is actually pretty well done. But anytime your character has to open its mouth, dear God, I wish they would shut up. And honestly, that's what's going to keep a lot of people from caring much about the story, is the fact that your main way of interacting with it is through the character, which is got the personality of roadkill. Overall, though, for most of the audience in question, the update wasn't bad. It just added content, but didn't provide enough stability fixes to warrant not wanting to gouge your eyes out at the frame rate or go on life support for the meta. There was enough enjoyable content to last you for some time. A story and somewhat crude multiplayer added to race each other in other cars, and a way to get to each other very easily through portals. It was enjoyable enough to last for a few months as they waited for more information on more significant changes to the game, and a few patches later, the update was actually a lot more stable, although there's still a couple bugs like falling through the world when you get out of cars and things like that. Again, all of these updates were free. However, for the sake of being fair here, if they hadn't been free, the game would have surely made like a fish out of water and flopped to complete death. One thing was clear though, the game was significantly different and better from launch. And while these changes happened, many didn't take notice to them, prescribing to the already preconceived notion of hating on the game as a form of ritual. Now, you're all caught up with the game, at least in terms of, for the sake of the next video, which will go into what was recently announced, No Man's Sky Next, touting as the biggest update to hit the game, which is saying something since I believe Atlas Rises was a considerable amount of the space that the game was already. So, yeah. Again, I split this video into two parts because, as you can see here, and I click on my little Audacity file, this video is almost 20 minutes long and would probably have been 40 minutes had I continued recording it here. So I decided to cut it off because I didn't want people to have to sit through a 40-minute video to get full thoughts on something. And plus, I felt like these two were I felt like they were two subjects that could have been focused on in two different videos. One was more talking about keeping you up to date and, explaining why people should be critiquing the game and providing information on how they think it should improve, as opposed to just hating on it for people that obviously care a lot about this game and are trying to make it better. But that's just it for me. Again, click here if you would like to get to the next video. I will have the same option on the next video if you watch them out of order. You can kind of watch them in any order. Chronologically, technically, this one's the first one, but if you don't, that is okay. They are points for talking.